So I am back with another video and I am going to try and be very consistent with this channel now. So it is Mosfar Evelayev versus Murphy. So I'm going to be going over the whole UFC London card and giving my predictions and takes on the whole of the card. If I'm being honest, I don't really like this card at all. Apart from the main event, I think it is very poor compared to the previous ones we've seen. But anyways, let's just get started on it. So on to the first fight of the main card. It is Campbell versus Danny Silva. Of course, Campbell is an undefeated fighter and it is his first fight in the UFC. Previous to this, he does have stoppages in his last three and he does seem very well rounded, with Danny Silva coming off a loss against Vallejos. But overall, Campbell's fight IQ does seem decent. He is fighting a tougher competition compared to like when he was on the Contender Series, and Danny Silva is very durable and can trade shots. Danny Silva as well in his first two UFC fights has never been knocked out. It's all gone to decision and he hasn't really been knocked out throughout his whole career. So he could maybe stun Campbell once, but I also feel like Campbell could also do a body lock takedown as he is the better grappler overall. So my prediction is Campbell by decision, though it will be a tougher matchup for him compared to the previous opponents he has versed. So the second fight on UFC London is Roman Dolidze versus Christian Leroy Duncan. Christian is on a 3-fight win streak with his last two being stoppages, while Dolidze is coming off a loss against Anthony Hernandez. I do think CLD will win this fight by decision. I think he's way better on the feet than Dolidze, though against Tulio he was doing spinning back elbows and doing risky stuff, which led to him having his back taken, which is not good against Dolidze as he can submit you, with his best category being in Jiu-Jitsu. So a more cautious approach is needed by CLD, showing his boxing combinations against Dolidze. So overall I got CLD by decision, but to be honest I wouldn't be surprised if Dolidze wins somehow. So moving on to the third fight of the night, and if I'm being honest, previous cards have been just so better for UFC London, I'm pretty sure. But it's Baranowski versus Lane. Baranowski is undefeated and it's cool to have over 5 undefeated people on the main card. I think this is kind of clear who is going to win. Lane is 1-4 in the UFC and has been stopped in the last 2 fights pretty early, while Baranowski is coming off a stoppage in the first round against Arslan. Why this is on the main card I have no clue, but I think Baranowski knocks out Lane in the first round. And I just realised as well, Lane has moved down to light heavyweight compared to all his previous matches being at heavyweight. So Lane does have a huge reach advantage as well. So maybe he will jab Baranowski on the way in. But I just see him getting pressured against the cage and getting knocked out, unfortunately. And, you know, maybe after this loss, they might let him go. So hopefully that's not the case. Moving on to the next fight, MVP is back. And you know what? I'm happy that UFC London has MVP on it. And I want MVP to win, but I was surprised with this fight even being announced. I just didn't expect him to fight Patterson, and I thought he would just get someone else ranked in the middleweight division. But I don't know what's really going on with MVP. Like, he has now gone back to welterweight, and he did have 2 good wins in middleweight, Cannonier and Shara. And before the Shara fight, I really thought he was going to lose to Shara by decision. However, he proved me wrong, 30-27. But I am picking Sam Patterson to be MVP. I mean, people really do hate engaging with the MVP, especially due to his unique fight style. Like, even though Patterson is the underdog, I feel like he will finish MVP in the 3rd round, unfortunately, as he does have power in his hands, and also in his last 2 fights, he has finished both of his opponents in the 1st round, and he will go to 3-0 in the UFC if he wins this fight. And he even has a grappling advantage against MVP. The height and range is also very similar, which has not been the case in MVP's previous fights, apart from like Kevin Holland and Ian Gary. But I'll say this though, MVP does move around pretty good, especially in the 1st round. And it is very hard to track him down and get a clean hit on him, which is something I saw that Shara was struggling against him. And that's really the thing many opponents of MVP do. They don't really engage at all with him. And this of course may be the fact that they may be worried about the countering, as MVP is very good at countering, but his fights usually have little output and they're not very entertaining to watch if I'm being honest. And that's really it for the whole fight, little output. I also realized that Patterson has the similar reach to MVP, which will also benefit him. There's also that one round where MVP gets taken down all the time and controlled, which may happen in this match too. But overall, I've got Patterson winning. I think many have chosen him to win a lot all over YouTube. And let's say if MVP wins, which I doubt he will, it will most likely be a decision, as MVP doesn't really have any finishes in the UFC. But mainly all his finishes have been against Bellator people that he used to fight. So that's why you see all these edits on TikTok and that. But I think this will be an interesting fight to watch. So moving on to the co-main event of UFC London, it is Luke Riley versus Aswell. So Luke Riley is coming off a second round knockout against Grad, while Aswell is coming off a first round knockout against Lucas Almeida. But he did lose to Oki before this by a decision. But how on earth is this the co-main event? This makes no sense. And I'll be honest, the main card really isn't that good, apart from like the main event. But if I'm picking who to win, I've got Riley by decision. Aswell is also decent in stand-up and has got decent striking, but he doesn't really have any power, so there isn't really a knockout threat from him. And with the Almeida knockout, I'm pretty sure Almeida did have a broken hand. I also didn't realise that Aswell did lose to Grad, who Riley did beat in his debut, which, I mean, it doesn't matter with this fight, but I didn't realise that. So I see this fight being mostly a stand-up fight with little wrestling, but Riley just has more power, is faster, and will show more volume really. So I've got Riley by decision, let's just say. So moving on to the main event now, and a very huge matchup. I always love when there is undefeated versus undefeated, such as like when Ian Gary fought against Shavkat, and of course whoever wins this fight will fight Volk, unless they give Gene Silver the title shot, because I'll be honest, the matchmaking by the UFC this year hasn't really been that great. But in the overall fight, I defo think it will be competitive, but Eveleyev is winning this by decision. He hasn't had a finish in the UFC and he isn't going to get one against Murphy. I also do think that Murphy is just easy to take down in the open. I also don't think, even though Murphy does have a good spinning elbow knockout against Pico, that he shows any sign of having the knockout power to stop Evloev. Even looking at experience, Evloev has fought the better fighters. He won against a former champ, Sterling, and even people like Arnold Allen, who even though he is, let's just say, on a decline at the moment, was on a big winning streak back then. And let's be honest, if Evloev can handle Lopez, who is way dangerous than Murphy in being able to like box with him, then wrestle of course, I'm sure he can win this fight, as it's like Leroy Murphy is always taken down by a lot of people. And it's like if you can box with Arnold Allen and Lopez, and I'm pretty sure he dropped Allen as well. So ultimately I see Evloev being calm and strategic in boxing with Murphy. And even his chin is pretty good when taking shots. And it's like I expect him to hold Murphy down during takedowns, as like Aaron Pico, Emmett was all able to take Murphy down. And even though Murphy was able to get up against them guys, Evloev is just way better than them. And I think he's very efficient with his energy in fights. So overall I've got Movsar by decision. He will be fighting Alexander Volkanovski next. And in my opinion, I think he beats Alexander Volkanovski. I mean, I've seen people say that Gene Silver beats Volkanovski too. So it will be really interesting to see how the featherweight division plays about. But I gotta say, welterweight is mainly the best division for exciting fights and overall competitiveness. And when it comes to heavyweight as well, heavyweight's been awful. But with Alex Pereira going up, honestly, he's saved that division to an extent. But those are my UFC London picks. I'm happy that I'll be able to watch the fight card early, due to of course being in the UK, instead of having to stay up all the time to watch these UFC fights. But yeah, thanks for watching, I really appreciate it. If you do want to see more future UFC videos like this, click the subscribe button down below, and I'll see you guys on the next video.